In week 2, and it's exciting to have you back. And I know that several of you have been working away on collecting your data, and we will have time during the class tonight to talk about some of that and some of your situations. But before we get started, let's look at our norms and just be reminded of our norms. We would like for you to turn on all cameras and be present with us mentally, physically, emotionally, and socially, I guess. We ask that you remain muted unless we ask you to unmute. We ask that you refrain from using the chat box and refrain from interruptions. And there are other things there. One thing that I do like to always remind us about is be sure that you understand that anything that we say or that your classmates may share remains confidential within this class setting. So with that said, are we good on our class norms tonight? Give me a thumbs up. Okay.
Dr. Evans, I wanted to just remind them again, anything that your questions are important. What you think about is important. But if you would save that again until the end, we'll address it with you. We'll stay on here however long we need to address your questions if it's not answered tonight. Most of the time, just write it down. Most of the time it's addressed before the class is over with. But if it's not, then we will address it at the end because it may not apply to everybody. And if it doesn't apply to everybody and they're okay, they can sign off then and we won't be holding them up. Is that good? Everybody good on that? Okay.
All right, we're going to start our session with a review of APA 7th edition. So you have linked in your agenda a hot link to your APA editing checklist. And I'm going to talk from that. So
And Dr.
can you?
Evans, my hot link is not working. I have not set something up, so it's not working
Okay,
there, but it's working everywhere else, but it's not working there. So
okay,
I'm gonna pull it up.
all right. So I think there's a newer version that I made. Do you
Is
mind
it?
if I can share my
Let
screen?
me stop sharing then.
Okay,
Okay, so I need that newer version then because
okay,
I don't know that I've got it in my shell. So
all right. Let me see.
and Dr. Evans, I may have two different checklists, one in one place and one in another, but whatever you've got tonight, to my students, I will put whatever Dr. Revis is showing you in both places.
First of all, make sure that for every in-text citation that you have, there is a corresponding entry in your reference section, and vice versa. We always indent paragraphs a half inch, and headings are left justified and in bold. And I gave you some headings in the helpful hints document. You should use those headings. All words in headings are capitalized except for minor words like the, unless it comes at the beginning, and, but, those less than 4-letter words. Always look at your red and blue squiggly lines, and hopefully you may be writing in a Google Doc form, but you need to turn everything into us in a Word document. So make sure that you make that change over to a Word document before you upload it. Make sure your spell check is on and that you're using that. One thing in APA that's very difficult for me to remember is there's only one space after a punctuation mark. APA 7th edition, we use first person active voice. Now, this doesn't mean you're writing a personal narrative, but it means that you would not say things like that I'm referring to myself as the instructor or the professor did so and so, or in your case, the candidate did so and so. You just simply say I. And you always want to write in active voice and making sure that your subject is active. And, but again, this doesn't mean personal narrative. The entire document is Times New Roman 12-point font. Now, in some of the other colleges, they let you use some different fonts, but we use in the School of Education the Times New Roman 12 font. Now, the next few things are just some things that you have to remember. When you are writing a narrative, or your description, whatever, numbers 0 through 9 are always written in word form. A good way to remember this is single digit numbers are written out. Once you get to the double digits, all of those can be written in number form. No sentences should begin or end with Arabic numerals. Descriptions, instructions for your assignments, those should remain single spaced as modeled in the template. We are not writing in the template right now. You're just writing by assignments. But for example, your assignment 2, I know there are some directions there and that should all be single spaced, but the rest of your work is always, always double spaced. When you're looking at acronyms, we don't automatically use acronyms, and you never use them or establish an acronym unless you're going to use that acronym at least 3 times. So, for example, if you are writing about um, North Carolina end of grade assessments, you write that out the first time because you're going to use that again a lot. Instead, you can just say NCEOG, and you have established that acronym that you will likely repeat quite a bit, especially in your tasks 1 and 2 when you're collecting and gathering and analyzing data. And make sure that once you establish the acronym, that you use it consistently. All right, as I told you last week, in this program, we do not make a distinguish between a figure and a table. We call them all figures. I don't really like that. I think we should distinguish between, but we don't. So make sure that when you are writing and presenting a figure, that the word figure and the number 1 or 2 or whatever it may be is bold, left justified, and in sequential order. So the first figure you present would be figure 1, the next figure, figure 2, and so on. Every figure must have a title, and your title is in italics, and it's also left justified, 2 spaces under figure 1 or your figure number. And then you would have your image. It is always left justified as well. So I always say when you are presenting a figure, which you're going to have several in both assignments 1 and 2. I know you probably are not started with assignment 2. Some of you are because I've had some questions. But in assignment 1, you're going to have several figures. So you always need to introduce your figure, put the figure in with the correct figure number, title, figure, and then in the following paragraph, you need to talk about what you want the reader to glean from the figure. Don't just arbitrarily put a figure out there with no introduction nor any explanation. Now, you can put a little note at below your figure, but this is really just a brief note that helps the learner understand the figure, like to tell a legend, so that they may know that the axis means this, the y axis means that. Or if you're doing p-values, which you're not doing any of that. So you only include notes as needed for the reader to understand your figure. Okay? If you are going to reference an appendix entry during your narrative, you would say parentheses, see appendix, whatever. Appendix entries are always noted with capital letters, A, starting with A, B, and so on alphabetically. Now, you probably are not going to have an appendix entry for task one, or assignment one, excuse me. But you will later in assignment two, you will do a reference an appendix, which is your presentation slide that you're going to use for your presentation to your principal. Now, the next things that you're going to talk about are all about those in-text citations. How you do an in-text citation, when you do one, and um, your corresponding reference entry. So, quotes, if you use a big quote, which you probably will not, but a direct quote must include a page number. Okay? Example, author's last name. We only use author's last name. We do not use the first name unless it is a double last name author like Smith and Smith. Then you would put first initials only. But typically, you do not use first names, only last names. You always put your year of publication and then the page number, of course, if it's a direct quote. If it's not a direct quote, then you don't need to put the page number, but you do have to cite it. Even if you're paraphrasing, taking somebody else's thoughts and you paraphrase it and put it in your own words, you have to make a citation for that. Now, there's two ways you can cite. It's either narrative or parenthetical. The narrative, the way I remember it, it's really part of the sentence. For example, Stedman 2025 posited that if you attend online Zoom sessions, you will increase the likelihood of doing better in class. That is my citation. A parenthetical comes at the end of the sentence. If you attend online Zoom sessions, you will increase the likelihood of doing better in the class, and then you put the author's name and date at the end. The period here in this parenthetical always comes at the end of the citation. Now, if you have
Dr.
citations,
Revis, let me,
yes,
okay, again, go back to that one. One of the things that is a common error is that sometimes they want to put it after 2019 and then after the quotation also. Just remember, like Dr. Revis says, it only comes after um, the, the quotation, after the
citation.
parentheses, the
Mhm.
citation, yeah, after the
Yeah.
parentheses.
It
There.
seems like you would want to put your period there because you finished the sentence, but
Right.
actually, this citation is part of your sentence.
Well, I'm talking about yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. If you have in-text citations with multiple authors, they are separated by colons and listed in alphabetical order. Remember, narratives means you're writing and putting that author into the sentence. Davis, 2017, and Smith, 2019, describe dot, 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 dot. It's part of the sentence. If you use it parenthetically, you separate it with a semicolon at the end of the sentence, and you have to put them in alphabetical order. Again, you're probably not going to have anything like this i- until we do a lit review. Direct quotes of 40 or more words are in block format, means you indent right and left margins. And we always encourage you to avoid the use of long quotes. By the time you're a graduate student, and all of you have already been a graduate student, the expectation is that you have become um, very well versed in paraphrasing, but you still make sure that you're using your citations. One thing that changed with APA 7th edition is if you have more than two authors, well, three or more authors in your in-text citation, you always follow the first author, comma, et al, period. Et al is Latin for and others. And then you have a comma, and then you put the date. If you are using a narrative citation with two authors, you would just put Hamilton and Revis 2023 concluded. Now, if Hamilton has a different date on his work or her work, you would put Hamilton 2020 and Revis. However, in the parenthetical citation, um, with only two authors, you would put it like that. A parenthetical means coming at the end of your sentence.
And
Now I'm
the
going to
amber
skip
and the ampersand.
right and the ampersand right. Now I am going to go back, and you are saying, "How am I going to remember all this?" This has the link to the Dover Library. In the Dover Library, you always want to make sure you're on APA style because other schools use different styles. We always use APA. This is all about formatting. How to format, how to format. These are hot links, font guidelines. Excuse me. Remember that College of Education uses 12-point Times News Romans, tells you how to set up a header, a title page, section headings, tables and figures. Remember, we're only using everything as a figure. And then how do I cite? I love this. Let's say that you are citing a web page on a website. A lot of the work that you did in data collection came from a website, a web page. And if you're looking at your North and South Carolina school data, that was published by a government agency, probably. So this is what you click. And I love this because it tells you this is how you would write it in reference in your reference section. This tells you how you would write it as a parenthetical and as a narrative. And this gives you some more explanation. This will tell you how to cite just about anything that you need to cite. Again, how do I cite from that page we landed on in the library? And it will tell you you'll use a lot of journal articles in this course. You may use whole books, edited chapters, but these tell you exactly how to cite it. You need to know how to do an in-text citation, be it parenthetical or narrative, and you need to know how to reference things. Those are the biggies, but you
Dr.
still,
Revis, while we're talking about in-text citations, I got this question from a student this week, and we've had it before. Because of the work that they're having to do towards the principal's portfolio assessment, anonymity is a big issue there.
Mhm.
The student reached out to me, and I told her that we would talk about it tonight. When they're looking at local school information and they're citing their references, when they put their reference in there, it identifies their school district or it identifies their school. can we not make a decision that when it comes to that, instead of naming their school, and it would still be correct, they could do it like XYZ school or something like that, so that they're not naming their school. It gives them anonymity. And I would just say XYZ school or XYZ school district.
Mhm.
Does that work, Dr. Revis?
Yeah, you're giving it a pseudonym. So,
Yeah, you're giving it a pseudonym, and
yeah,
you accomplish what you need to accomplish by putting your citation there, but you're not identifying your school. So when the school data that you've been working on, that's how you will get around the anonymity part of that. You just like Dr. Reva said, you give it a pseudonym, and let's just be consistent. Let's just say XYZ. Is that good, Dr. Revis? XYZ school
that's good.
or XYZ school district.
Hmm.
Is that good? Everybody understand what to do? Okay.
Okay. And again, this is a really useful section. If you want to buy the APA manual, you can. But I think for this program, you can find everything that you need from right here in the library. Now, I'm not an APA guru or an APA expert at all. Please do not ask me, how do I cite this? Or how do I cite that? Because I'm going to have to look it up. You can look it up just as well as I can. You need to learn it. Okay? Now, if it's something crazy and you can't find it, sure, we'll work on it together. But you can find everything that you're going to use in this program from this page right here. Now, let's talk a little bit about your reference section. Um, if you will click right here, there is a short video that tells you how to do a hanging indent. In your reference section, I'm going back to the editing checklist. There are a few examples down here at the bottom. You have a hanging indent. I'm going to move this down so you can see it all on one line. This is my author's name, author's names. In your reference section, you put them all. This is the title, and I know it's a title of a journal article. Look at the title. It's in title case, meaning that only the first word is capitalized. The first word of the title, or if it's after a colon or semicolon, the first word, or unless if it said if English was in here, you capitalize English. Only proper nouns would be capitalized. And so this is the format actually for a journal article. My title of the journal is always in italics. And of course, there you have your volume number and uh, edition there and the page numbers. If you have a whole book, I know immediately when I look at this reference. Now, this should be double spaced, but notice hanging indent. This is flush left. These are hanging indents. But this has to be double spaced. Okay. And I know that seems a little odd to you, maybe, but your entire reference section has to be double spaced like that. I know this is a book right off the bat because titles of books are in italics. Notice again, in APA, you don't capitalize these words. Only proper nouns or the first word of the title or after a colon or semicolon, and so on. We consider in APA 7th edition, capitalization is considered a down style, meaning that words are lowercase unless there's some specific guidance to capitalization. And there is a capitalization guide actually I think that is found once again in your library. So if you're unsure, you can check. Okay? Now, again, you got to learn APA, guys. I wish you didn't, but you did. You do. And in the rubric, you see that we expect you it to be correct. So go to your resources in your library to find things that you don't know or want to check. But
And Dr.
this is
Revis, one of the things is that what Dr. Revis has presented is minimal compared to what that APA manual. We have pulled and succinctly given you basically everything that you need. And this will be consistent throughout this program. When you get to 603, 605, consistently. So once you wrap your head around it and you do it, you've got it for the rest of the semester. Okay. So just buckle down and just, knock it out the first time.
And some of these things are just good writing. Some of them are not necessarily APA, like red and squiggly blue lines are resolved. If you know you're proofing your own work. If you're not a real strong writer and only you know that, you need to get somebody else to proof your work before you turn it in, so that you can fix some of your little mistakes, if you will. Okay, you want to take questions now, or do we want to wait, Dr.
No,
Stiff?
no, no. Let's wait till the end. And if you
Okay.
have anything else about APA, we'll address it at the end. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Revis.
Mhm.
Um, let's move on to well, Dr. Revis, actually, you have it still.
Okay, yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I should not have stopped shared.
No,
All right. Let me see if I can go back and find my agenda. Okay.
now
Guys,
I've got them pulled up if you want me to.
I got it right here.
You got it? Okay, good.
Did my screen change?
It has, we're seeing the agenda.
Okay. All right, good. Uh,
Well,
I'm going to go to your
there
NCPPA
it is. Okay.
Principal Portfolio Assessment. You have it linked in your agenda. And remember, the only task we're working on this semester is task one. I'm going to scroll all the way down to page 36, and we are going to look at the rubrics for task one. And I think when you look at them, you're going to see the similarity in what you are doing in your individual assignments. You've only had one. But what we've done here is we've taken and broken down um, everything that's needed in the form of assignments in order for you to meet this rubric. Now, we always want to shoot for exceeding, okay? So I'm just going to read this first one. You're collecting data on three or more elements, right? That is in your task one or assignment one, excuse me. Um, some of this will not be until later on. This is going to be in assignment two. This will cover assignment three. This is assignment one. Three or more years on at least one data element. Student groups is assignment two. And then data from stakeholders, we will do that in assignment three. So if you want to know where you're going, you got to collect data first. We start with collecting data off of our state assessments in our school that our school gives. Then we are going to collect qualitative data and some different type of quantitative data that helps round the picture of what's going on in your school. We'll talk about that for assignment three. So you're going to evaluate existing policies, programs, and practices. You are going to build a plan for improvement. Once you choose your um, area of academic area, and then you identify your target group of children, you're going to make an action plan to address the performance of that targeted group of students. So it's very authentic work. You'll have a vision, a plan, you'll get input from teachers and stakeholders. You'll develop the plan with full details. You will even get feedback on that plan. And then finally, you're going to do an assessment of the leadership skills and practices that you use throughout this task and throughout your semester. So that's why we're starting off and doing what we're doing in collecting data. And Dr. Stebbin, one thing I thought was kind of neat, I had one of my students say, I've got so much data, I don't even know what to do with it all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's called being data rich and information poor. So, yeah, there's a lot of data out there. And you just have to start weeding through and siphoning through that data. Dr. Stedman?
Well, that kind of leads in. We would talk about it later on, but your textbook, and I hope all of you have it because the first chapter, you have to read it this week, and we'll talk about it more next week. But as you look into the textbook, if you look into the preface, it talks about used effectively what data can do, but used ineffectively. It also talks about what data can do. I mean, it simply says it can suck the life out of you if it's not you. So you have to know what you're doing. Data is important, and it goes on in the preface to talk about, it says there are at least 4 reasons why data gathering is an essential part of growth and change, and uh, it says first, when people understand data, they're able to see what they otherwise might not see. So there's a purpose behind what you're doing. Second, when people understand data, they are able to talk with more precision about how students engage and learn, how teachers teach. In other words, it empowers you. Understanding the data empowers you as a leader. Thirdly, data help people identify goals, and you will be doing that. And lastly, data help build confidence and agency in both students and teachers. Now, remember last week, I emphasized with my hat, I said, at this point, I want you to take off your teacher hat and I want you to put on your principal hat because you got to think like a principal from this point on. So your focus in all of this is, how would you approach this data, from a principal's perspective? What you look at it because you understand as a teacher, but you're looking at it and you're digging into it and making decisions based on the fact that you are the leader of the school. One thing that you've got to remember, those of you that are still in the classroom, you're a teacher. So teachers teach what? They teach students. Guess what? Principals and assistant principals don't teach students. They manage students, but principals and assistant principals are involved in basically teaching teachers how to be effective in that classroom to teach students so that we can get the results that we want. So you are now becoming basically a teacher of teachers as an administrator. So uh, as you read this book and as you are doing the work that you have to do to begin with this task, just remember, it says data rules. That's the title of the book. Data does rule. You've learned this already as a teacher or as a coach or whatever your role is. You've learned that that has become um, what drives everything that you pretty much do in the classroom and what the principal does, in the school. That data drives it all. So, we cannot say that enough. Okay, Dr. Revis, you have anything else with that? Okay, can't hear you.
Sorry, I just want to add to that and just say, if you were an instructional coach, and I know I have several instructional coaches, um, gosh, Heather Webb, instructional coach, and several on my list. Um, you know, you probably, and certainly if you're an assistant principal, Katie, I'm sure you've done this, you probably are very accustomed to digging into that data and making data presentations to your staff. If you're a classroom teacher, I'm sure you've been presented with data. Now we're asking everybody to roll your sleeves up. You got to know the data, if you and where to get it, and how to draw conclusions and inferences from your data sets. It's not just about throwing data together. What inferences do you make from those data sets? So, um, that's the purpose of this task one in your NCPPA, and that's the purpose of what we're all about for this semester.
Okay, next we're going to, I mean, all of this, it works hand in glove together, but we want to point out some things that as you're growing into the role of an administrator, things that are going to be a part of your life forever as an administrator. Now, South Carolina, you're going to say, well, why am I having to look at this? First of all, because you're going to be certified by North Carolina, and then it's going to be reciprocated in South Carolina. So you've got to follow the North Carolina standards for school. You've got to understand them. But South Carolina has their own standards for school executives. And what you're going to find out is that they're not really any differently than North Carolina standards. They may just be stated a different way, but the end result, the goal, is basically the same no matter whether you're here or there. Um, there are 8 standards um, that principals and assistant principals are measured by in the state of North Carolina. And we'll over the course of this program, you will be exposed to all 8 of those standards, and you need to understand them because this is going to be the tool that measures your success as a principal and as an assistant principal. Am I right, Dr. Revis? Okay, so let's look at first of all, what North Carolina says. What are the intended purposes of the standards? And I'm not going to read all of this, but I want you to look at this. It says the North Carolina School Executive Standards have been developed as a guide for principals and assistant principals as they continually reflect upon and improve their effectiveness as leaders throughout all of the stages of their careers. So when you look at these 8 standards, you're looking at everything that you do as a leader in a school. They're embedded in these 8 standards. The first one I want you to look at is strategic leadership, and even doing the data dives and understanding the data, that's a part of strategic leadership. And in summary, it just simply says school executives will create conditions that result in strategically re-imaging the school's vision, mission, and goals in the 21st century. Understanding that schools ideally prepare students for an unseen but not altogether unpredictable future. The leader creates a climate of inquiry that challenges the school community to continually repurpose itself by building on its core values and beliefs about its preferred future and to developing a pathway to reach it. I know that's a lot of words, but basically that's your job. Your job is to take it where it is. Now, some of you, Gwen, I'm looking at you. Gwen may be assigned, her first job may be in a school that, they may be a B school or an A school. And um, the kind of things that they have to do to reimage that school are going to be differently from what somebody that, Kimberly, I'm looking at you, goes into a school that is rated a D or an F school, and you've got all of those challenges, ahead of you, to move the pendulum, and you really have, the challenges are going to be greater because you've got to move that pendulum so much because of where they are. But Gwen, your challenges are still going to be great because, the thing is, if they're there, you can't let them go backwards. What are you going to do to keep them moving forward in that right direction? So all of that is a part of your leadership. What I'd like for you to do, challenge you to do this week, is to just to go into this standard, and I want you to read it and understand it, and I want you to begin again thinking as a principal. How does this apply to me? Most of you, your first job is going to be an assistant principal. What how will this apply to me as I move into the role of an assistant principal? Now, if you work through this program successfully, by the end of the summer, 1 year from now, 1 year from now, you will be completed and you will be ready when school starts back next August. You will be ready for a leadership role, an assistant principalship. You'll be ready to begin applying for them before you get out of that third semester. So you need to be prepared uh, in advance of knowing what is going to be expected of me as an assistant principal. And I will tell you, understanding these standards are going to be vitally important as you begin the interview process, and going into those interviews very confident and understanding what the role that you are asking to be considered for will entail. So, look at this yourself and begin understanding what these standards represent for you. Dr. Revis, any more comments about that?
Now, and I would just like to just finish up by saying this is what your evaluation is going to be based on.
Exactly.
And so you would also not just be able to understand it, you have to demonstrate it, and you would have to keep some artifacts.
Facts,
So
yes, yes, all of that is in there. So that's why we encourage you to read it and understand it, because you need to begin understanding. We'd love to be able to go into all of this stuff in detail, but we don't have time. So we're exposing you to it, but don't wait until at the very end and say, "Well, I'm going into an interview. I need to understand." You need to understand it while you're going through this program, and as you look at this, the things that you're being asked to do by Dr. Revis and me, the things that you've got to do to prepare for that principal's uh, uh, the
portfolio.
portfolio, yes,
Mhm.
assessment. All of that will make better sense when you understand, those standards that you're going to be required to become a part of your life. Like you said, it basically it will judge you as a principal. So, um, Dr. Revis, let me come out of this and then go back into, I'm going to share again. I need to find here it is. Okay. Oh, I've got to come out of that. Oh, excuse me. I don't
While
want
you're
to
doing
cover.
that,
Well,
can I
yes,
waste a
yes,
little bit of time?
yes, yes. Go ahead.
If your CC one, is it one or two, Dr. Stedman, has not gotten in touch with you to set up a time to meet with you and your site supervisor, I need for you to put that your name in the chat box. If you don't have a meeting scheduled with your site supervisor and your CC1, let me know.
And the same thing applies to me. Let me know as well. Here it
I'll try
is.
to pick them up from the chat box, Dr. Stedman, and write them
Okay.
down for us.
We want to talk for just a few minutes and get you started on your internship. So we're actually going to we're going to your course shell. And if you go under syllabus policies and other course information, you will find this information in there. So this is where I'm actually going to pull from clinical internship resources. So I'm going to open that up, but you have this that you can go back to. Let's look at let's talk about the internship requirements. It was mentioned, at the very beginning during town hall, but we did not go into detail about it because you already have gotten started on it, but you don't realize it. We're not going to talk about the 20-month program because you are a part of the um, okay, let me see. You're part of the 12-month program. So this is where we want to go. Again, as was mentioned to you during town hall, uh, for the whole program, for the 3 semesters, you will be required to do a total of 500 hours. 200 will be for this semester, 200 will be for the spring semester, and 100 will be for your summer semester. Let's talk about what those hours need to look like. Okay. Um, in the fall semesters, this fall semester, of those 200 hours, 100 of those hours will come from leadership work from Evidence One, the APPSL. Everything that we've been talking about as far as your assignment 1 is concerned, assignment 2, assignment 3 that Dr. Revis made reference to tonight, and assignment 4, Dr. Revis,
Oh, I'm
they this
sorry. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
they
I'm sorry.
there's 4 assignments right for the app so that they've got to work on.
Yes.
Okay, so
Four
all
major
right.
components.
So out of all of that work, you will get to document 100 hours of leadership from that. Well, now what will that be? It's not going home and doing your homework. That's not it. That's not leadership. That's what you would do. That's what you do as a student. But the 100 hours comes from the the surveys that you do, meeting with focus groups, leading actually doing the work you've done gathering your data will be a part of this. Now, can you say, well, I've done 25 hours of it and we're going to give you 25 hours? No, we will give you some credit for it, but be reasonable in the request that you're asking for, even digging for the data and doing the research for the data. We will give you some credit for that as well. Dr. Revis, what do you think um, a good number of hours would be for that for us to
Well,
out of the 100 hours?
I think you're probably going to spend two hours collecting your data, and then maybe 3 hours collecting data. Depends on where you are.
Right.
If you've
So
never collected data before that we're asking you to collect, it's gonna take you a minute to figure out where to get that from and who's the best person to get it from. But I would think 2 to 3 hours to collect the data, and in my opinion, it's just I'm going out on a limb here. In my opinion, you should be able to count everything you do with assignment one
Mhm.
except for the time you spent in writing it up.
Exactly. Exactly. So you should, over the course of this semester, you should easily be able to get that 100 hours. They will accumulate fast. Now, again, that's your leadership. Now, your leadership may be, that's you and one other person. That's leadership if you're interviewing somebody, or if you're meeting with the administrative team. That for the work that you're doing, that can count towards that. But your 100 hours must be clearly evident in the work that you're doing for evidence one, the APPSL assignment, the assignments that you're doing there. Dr. Revis, anything else you want to say about that 100 hours? Again, it
Well,
it it could again. I'm looking at Gwen and Kimberly again. It could be they're Gwen and Kimberly's going to have some of the same hours, but there may be some that are different for them based on what where they are and what they're having to do. So it's not going to be the same for everybody. There will be some differences there.
yeah, I just think you have to remember you can do half of your hours, 100 hours, can come from the work you're doing for class assignments, except for the time it takes you to write it up and turn it in as an assignment.
Right.
All the data collection, everything that you're going to see as we go through this semester. Always keep that down when you did it and what you did. But now there's another 100 hours that cannot be related to classwork
Right. And
or
we've
what
got
you're
that
doing.
broken down, Dr. Revis. We've got
Okay?
that broken down, exactly what that needs to look like. Those 100 hours, 70 of those hours. Now, this has nothing to do with the 100 hours that we were just talking about. These are 70 hours that come directly from leadership opportunities that are not directly associated with the NCPPA work and requirements. Okay, Dr. Revis, you're my intern. You're my intern at my high school. Okay, what are some of the things that you can do for me there that would count towards that 70 hours?
Well, I can always be part of the administrative team and do walkthroughs that we're required to do every day. Can always be a part of that. I can be a part of um, let's see, working with the person doing the scheduling at the beginning of the year, if you're in a high school, which is where I spent most of my time, always the lunch schedules are always messed up. You'll have, 100 more kids in this lunch than you will, and so I'm going to work with my data manager to try to even out those schedules. I may even learn how to register a new student, but I'm doing things that I don't ordinarily do in my job. I am going to try at some point to be at a Boosters Club meeting and make some kind of brief presentation to my Boosters Club. I may work with my bookkeeper and help her count out and get ready um, the money box for Friday night football.
Okay,
I
Dr.
may,
Revis, what if I ask my principal's permission to go to a school board meeting with them?
yes, a school board meeting most definitely counts.
What if there is a county meeting with county commissioners and they are talking about funding for the schools, and I ask permission to go to that meeting as well, or I go to that meeting, because you don't really have to ask permission to go to those meetings. You go, because that is, as an administrator, as a leader, you're learning where your funding sources are.
That's definitely true. And also, when I go to meetings, I'm going to get a copy of the agendas because I need to save those as some artifacts for later on. So I'm going to gather artifacts, as many as I can, on those hours. Well, Dr. Stedman, let me ask you this.
Hmm.
I'm a math teacher. Can I count when I go to the fall math conference at the State Department? Can I count that?
I probably would give you maybe 3 hours credit for that, but you have to come back and you have to make a presentation to the staff or at least the math department.
Again, these are about leadership things. These are not things that you ordinarily do as a classroom teacher. Now, if you're already in an assistant principal's job, hey, you got it made. Everything you do is going to be leadership. But not everything. Because your principal may tell you you've got morning bus duty every morning of the year. Can I count all those hours for supervision, Dr. Stedman? Excuse me.
Absolutely not. I'm not going to give that's just one small thing of the many things that you've got to do, um, that are not directly related to leadership. That comes with the territory of being an administrator. So I probably, you know, out of my 10 hours, I'm probably only going to get count 1 hour of that.
You can
Because I
only
mean,
have,
or
yeah,
about
you can
one
only
hour is
have
all I'm going to give you.
10 hours of supervision. And that's bus duty, cafeteria duty, parking lot duty, hall duty. Guys, you don't learn much from duty.
Ball game duty,
Yep,
crowd control,
right. 10
those kinds of
hours
things.
for the semester. Because let me tell you now, if you're already an assistant principal in high school, you're going to get 10 hours a week. You could.
Right.
But that's not what we're about. We're about pushing you into taking on some of those leadership opportunities. One of the things I always suggest with my interns is go to your principal and ask them, is there a big project that you've been really wanting to do but have never had the time to do that I might could take the leadership role in? Ask that question. I'm sure there are things that they would really like to do and ideas they have in the back of their mind that they've never had time to do. And maybe you're the person to do that for them.
Right. So just know that those 70 hours they have to be leadership opportunities that are not directly related to the other 100 hours that you've done. And they have to be has to be a diversity in those 70 hours. It can't be, you know, 35 hours of this and 35 hours of that. We need to see a variety of leadership opportunities over the course of the semester. Okay. And
And
then the
Dr. Stedman,
go ahead.
how far back can I go and count my work for this semester?
From when they started school. When they started school, before students came, you can go back to the first week of school. And if there were things that you were doing that were, leadership opportunities, then you can count them that week. Okay. And then 20 hours come directly from technical knowledge and opportunities. What do we mean by that, Dr. Revis?
Well, I gave you an example, and I shouldn't have because we were talking about leadership. But for example, working with your bookkeeper to set up the gate boxes for Friday night football, that's technical knowledge. You
Uh,
do that a couple times, you got it. That's not leadership. But you need to know how to do it and how it's done and how you're collecting the money and dispersing money in school because school monies can get you in trouble. Um, Things like understanding the budget, where all the different funding sources are for your school and what that looks like and how your principal disperses those funds. All that kind of stuff would be considered technical. Probably even, um, probably even the example that I gave you about evening up lunch schedules. That's technical. Registering new students for school. That's technical.
or helping to, if you've got an after school program, helping figure out the bus routes for the students,
Mm-hmm.
those things. And then 10 hours come directly from the supervision. We've talked about that. So 50% or 100 of these hours are due at the end of week 7. So you've got the 2 weeks that you've already been in, well, 2 weeks, then week 7, we've got 5 more weeks after this week. So you need to plan out your schedule. You need to be able to show something in all of these areas, going back to the 100 hours for the work that you're doing. 50 of those hours you should be halfway through, so you should be looking at approximately 50 of those hours, those 100 hours at the midpoint, and then 50 of the other hours, a diversity of that 70, 20, and 10, at the end of week 7. And then the others are going to be due at the end of week 13. And that will be bringing the semester to an end. Now, what we've done, and so we've mapped out the same thing for spring, and we've mapped out, what the summer will look like. It's abbreviated in the summer. This is your log. This is, I would print this out. I would just have me a copy of this, and I would just keep a running, or either you can put it on your, anyway, just daily. When you do something, go ahead and so you don't forget it. Write in what you do. Go back and put that area, whether it's supervision, leadership, technical, and then how many hours that you did, and just keep up with it. That you need to keep your running log of that, and then at the end of the semester, you're actually you can't submit it to us in a written form. It must be typed and submitted to us, for the mid-semester review and at the end. Now, at the end of the program, all of these will be combined, or they will be put into a task stream, and this becomes a part of clearing you at the end of the 3 semesters as a part of your licensure process as well. The state of North Carolina requires, this is a requirement from NCPPA, that you have to do these 500 hours and the areas that we have just talked about. Now, these are some examples of what leadership could look like. These are some supervision activities. These are some technical things as well. So this is just a tip of the iceberg of the things that you do in a school, but this helps you, get started and understand. And then we included this at one time when we were going through COVID and everybody was doing, virtual teaching and learning at schools. This is in case we would ever have to go back to something like that, Lord forbid. And then every now and then we get somebody that works completely teaching and working in a virtual school. And we would work with those people if you are working completely in a virtual school to be able to complete your hours, in this fashion. Now I'm going to stop share, and I am going to ask questions and ask stuff. Does everybody understand about the 200 hours for this semester? Does that help you get started? Okay, go back and look at, and you've got to have the approval. You're working under a principal or working under a site supervisor. They have agreed, and this is a part of what that CC1 visit is going to be. That CC1 visit with it is going to make sure that the principal understands that whoever your site supervisor is, that they are to work with you to help you get the hours that you need. Now, it's your job outside of working in the classroom. If you're a teacher, you've got to figure out how you're going to do this before school, after school, when you've got things during planning period, that's your job to figure this out. But Dr. Evans, we've been doing it a long time. They figure it out every semester, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Every semester they figure it out and they're successful with it. So you've just got to wrap your head around it, and you've got to figure out how I'm going to do this semester, because you cannot, if your 200 hours are not completed successfully at the end of this semester and you haven't done the hours, you can't move on to 603. This is a major requirement for this semester. So don't wait until the end to try to say, well, I got to get, you've got to pace yourself along the way. You should be able to get quality hours every week. Map it out, and don't wait for somebody to tell you. You be assertive, you be the leader, and you ask your site, may I be a part of this? Don't wait. They're busy. You know what the beginning of, they're busy. Sometimes you're going to think that they don't care. It's not that they don't care. They're busy, and they may not have time for it right then. So you be creative and you find opportunities to make it work for you. Um,
It seems like, Dr. Stedman, what I'm seeing in chat, that Mr. Ramsey has um, contacted a lot of students and set some things up for this week, but then had to cancel and reschedule, and that rescheduling has not been solidified, except for Regina Graves. I got her email. Nobody's contacted her, and I will. Regina, your name came in a little late for some reason, and I will make sure Dr. Stone gets you that information so he can let Mr. Ramsey know.
thank
Any
you.
other questions? I had a couple frantic emails this week about your clinical work. And I said, just wait till class. We'll talk about it. I just want to make sure everybody's feeling okay about what you need to do and keeping that log. That is huge. Keeping that log. You don't have to write down what competency. You don't have to do all that, but you need to collect artifacts when one is readily available.
That could be, if you go to if you present, your name should be on an agenda presenting. If you go to um, if you go to a special meeting, you should be able to get an agenda of that meeting. Those become artifacts, proof, of some things. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Where are we, Dr. Revis? If
All
we
right.
went to,
We are now,
let me
I have to
pull up.
remind you that,
I'm working from two computers over here,
okay.
so I can.
We
If
are
you,
now looking at week two requirements. Your assignment one, part A, your data collection.
okay, let
And
me pull this
reminding
up, Dr.
you,
Revis. Go ahead. I'm going to pull
and
this
we're
up.
just reminding you of what is due on Sunday evening, that you have to have your assignment one into us by Sunday evening at 6 p.m.
Okay, here we are.
At 6:05 p.m. it is late. At 6:01 p.m. it's late. And you know that Blackboard timestamps things. We're not, and it's not a gotcha kind of thing, guys, but a deadline's a deadline. If you don't learn anything else in this program or from Dr. Stedman and myself, you need to learn a deadline is a deadline. You will never be an effective principal if you cannot keep your deadlines. And we know that. So time management is of the essence, but you've got to have assignment one in by this Sunday. I think some of you are already ready to turn it in from some of the questions, and then you need to begin working on assignment two.
And Dr. Revis, when you turn your assignment one in, again, we're looking at APA. You form whatever your headings need to be. You determine what those headings are going to be. You write it as professionally as you can the first time. using the APA and putting in there. But you know, your framework, you're developing your framework pretty much what it looks like using APA to write your work with. Okay.
Well,
Because
we've given them a little,
yeah,
helpful
we have.
hints.
Yeah, we have.
And
Yeah,
I would like if it's provided in the helpful hints,
right.
I personally would like for you to use those
Well,
headings.
yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Follow with that.
it's
But
not complete.
right.
It's not
There's
complete.
other things. Right. There's other
So,
things too. But we've guided you with that. Dr.
mhm.
Revis, is there anything we need to say about the assignment two helpful hints yet?
um, we probably need to. I think we probably need to talk about assignment two, don't we?
Yes, we do. Um, I
Assignment
don't know.
two is just taking things a little further.
Let me see if it's going to come up. No, this is what I'm getting every time. So something is not set up in my computer, and I thought I had done it last week.
Okay.
Have you got yours, Dr. Revis, where you can pull it
Yes,
up?
I got it. I'll pull it
Okay.
up. Let me
Okay,
share.
pull it up. Yeah.
I've got my agenda pulled up. Um, okay. Assignment two. Let's look at I like to start with the rubric. I think that's a good place to
Okay.
start. All right. So in assignment one, you've done a lot of data collection on content areas, and you have even articulated a priority area, right? They did that in assignment one?
They haven't done
No.
although they probably know that comes this time.
Okay. So in assignment two, you are synthesizing and interpreting all your data that you collected in assignment one across multiple years. And what you're trying to do, what you're going to do, is identify a priority academic area. Okay. For example, in the example that I gave you under the helpful hints, it was clear after looking at the EOC data for 3 years that students were underperforming relative to the other EOCs in NC Math 1. I could see that very clearly. I had to show it, but I could see that. And then you want to make sure there's a clear connection between why did I choose NC Math 1? Well, it's clear they're underperforming. Students are underperforming in that tested area more than any other areas. So after I get that target area, NC Math 1, then I look for a target student group. I identify my target area, then I look at a target student group in that area. Then I'm going to take Math 1, NC Math 1, and I'm going to look at all my data for all groups of students, federally identified students, right? And I'm going to hone in on one of those target groups, all right? And then I'm going to have a hypothesis that I say that if we can increase and improve our instructional strategies by using research-based instruction, then we can improve the overall academic performance of students with disabilities in NC Math 1. That's a hypothesis. You may change it as you go along, but that's your hypothesis. The next thing you do, you got to put all that narrative. Then you get a meeting with your principal and you're going to design a slideshow. In that slideshow, what would you have in there? I would have my data analysis that you did in assignment one and assignment two. All of your ESC data would be there. You're talking with him and trying to show him why you selected NC Math 1 and why you selected your target student group. That's what you've got to do. You talk about the meeting narratively, and you can either, you can summarize the meeting. I met with my school principal, or maybe it was an administrative team on such and such a day, and presented the slide deck, which can be found in appendix whatever A. And my principal was in total, complete amazement that NC Math 1 students with disabilities were our areas of need, or they were in full agreement with it, or something like that.
But Dr.
Now,
Ravis, what if the principal says, okay, I understand what you found, but this is what I want you to do?
well, um, I think at that point, well, let's think, hey, we're flying this plane as we're building it. For NCPPA, they have no choice. They've got to make that connection.
Right.
Okay? You just really need to be convincing. I understand what you want to work on, sir. I get it. But for my principal licensure, I have to show a connection between the data sets and the identification of the tested area and the
Right.
group of students.
We hope you're
I
not
just,
challenged that way, but that's just in case you are
yeah,
challenged.
you know, used to we could say, we'll go with whatever the principal says, but you've got to show this in your portfolio project. You can't just all of a sudden say, well, my principal was a jerk and he said, I don't care what the data sets say, we're going to do this. No, you can't do that. You've got to flow with,
Just
you've got to
remember
come
this
up.
too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to say it has to make sense.
Right.
Your target areas have to be supported by data.
And just remember this, sometimes you have to go into those meetings, and if there are any challenges, and I hope there's not, be diplomatic, you go along. But remember, when you do your principal portfolio assessment, nobody after that presentation is going to see that work, okay? So you can be honest and be authentic with the work that you are presenting. Okay. Your job is to just present the facts to them, and what they do with it, that's them, but you can move on with what you have to do.
Your work.
Yeah.
Now you only have a week to do this. This assignment is due the following Sunday evening, um, September the 7th. Okay? So we gave you 2 weeks on this first assignment, and that was just because we were starting up and everybody wanted to get their self together, the text and introduction and all that. Usually we will give you a couple weeks per assignment, but assignment two is due next Sunday evening.
So, Dr. Revis, my recommendation is you need to go ahead and be thinking about, because you've got to make a presentation to at least your principal. So you need to go ahead and be thinking about, you know, looking at your time and your completion time, because you need to go ahead and you need to schedule a meeting with your principal and know that you've got to have your work ready for that presentation when you meet with your principal.
You got to meet with them next
You,
week.
so you need to go ahead and figure out a time, and then you have to figure out, the work that you've got to do. This is what I've got to do, and have that ready for, um, when you meet with your principal.
And next week's a short week with Monday being Labor Day. So, use tomorrow and Friday to try to schedule a time with your principal. I know it's crazy time of year, guys. Everybody's running rampant, but you've got to get this done.
Just remember, though, you're in an accelerated program, and I know, there's things that you're going to have to give up some time, to get work done. So you talk with your family and you let them know they've got to work with you on this. That it won't last forever, but while you're going through it, you're going to need the support and and everything to get it done. For those that will not be out of town Monday, that would be a great time to get a lot of work done. You know, I've worked many times, Dr. Revis, when my family was doing other things, because when we were going through the doctoral program, especially. So
Well, yeah. I mean, you'll have this weighing on your back now for 3 semesters. And just know it's short-lived, but you've really got to prioritize your time.
it will get. You don't think it now. The work's not going to change, but it will get easier because you will get into a routine with things. You'll understand it better, and it'll flow better. So again, I told you after about week 4, you will begin seeing things starting to. Some of the anxieties will go away. Okay.
And I believe this is a 6-hour credit course, so guys, you need to be spending 12 to 15 hours just on coursework. And then you've got to do your clinical work too. Of course, half of it can be double dipped, but the other half, if you have a planning period, you automatically need to realize from here on out, you need to be doing clinical work.
And always remember, keep this in the back of your mind. You're not just getting an add-on licensure, you're getting another full master's degree. You will have a second full master's when you get through with this program.
Now, you're probably a little overwhelmed after tonight, that, but I promise you, if you'll stay with us till until week 4, just hang in there. You can do this work. It's very manageable. It's very doable, but it is work. It's a lot of work. And I can't do anything about that. You can manage your time. But we don't want to lose you. We'll be glad to talk you off the ledge if we need to, but you can do this.
Yeah.
And you know why I know that? How many times we've been through this, Dr. Stedman?
Oh Lord, I had hair when we started, and I don't have it now.
Too
So,
many times too many times to even count. And you can do it.
but
Okay?
Dr. Evans, let's show them the helpful hints too that
Yes.
were created.
All right. Let's do that. Let me go back and get my agenda. The helpful hints document, again, I'm making this stuff up, guys, just so you've got something. Well, I'm not sure why it's not wanting to come up either.
You have to click. Okay,
Hmm.
hit Control and then click on it.
Yeah, I am, and I'm not sure. There it comes, finally. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Assignment 2. This is just your directions, okay? You leave those in there. A data analysis process and academic area of need. So I described the process that I used. And, it's not, I don't go into a lot of detail. And I did that purposefully because in the NC portfolio, you do have some limitations to the number of words. The
Mm.
key is to be succinct, comprehensive, but succinct. And I did a side by side chart. And if I did a note down here, probably I would just do a note that's told again what this is grade level proficiency and this is college and career ready in North Carolina. South Carolina does something a little bit different, very similar. And so I did it for 4 tested areas in my high school. I did 2022, 23, 24. I do not have official 25 data at this point. I left a placeholder because I think your unofficial data is probably at your school district, and you might can get it for just the big tested areas. You will not be able to get subgroup data, I don't think, right now.
Mhm.
So I talked about in examining side by side. It is clear, and you can see that right here. Every year, it is clear that NC Math 1, all except for that 1 year in biology, and I don't know what happened that year, but it's only 1 year. Remember, I'm looking at a trend. They're scoring below other tested areas. And I talked about in 2024, there was a 10.8 percentage point. It's not a percentage increase, percentage point. Okay. However, the percentage of students scoring at CCR has consistently been below other state assessments. Therefore, NC Math 1 is the academic area of need. And then I described how I did my subgroups. Now, I'm not going to go back and do subgroups for everything, only my Math 1. All right?
Travis, I want to point out how she ended that. I mean, she said all that, and then she succinctly said, therefore, North Carolina Math 1 is the academic area of need. There should not be any ambiguity there at all. Just clearly say it, and don't don't fancy it up or anything. Just say it.
And that needs to be the last sentence in
Right,
that section.
right.
All right, now we're going to go to target subgroups. So describe a little bit about how you compared your student subgroups and identify the target subgroups. So what I would look at are my federally identified groups. Okay. Now, Dr. Stedman, I had one candidate tell me total number of students in the school was 305 students.
Mm-hmm.
In South Carolina, you have to have 20 students in a group before that data is reported. She had zero groups of students other than male and female. So, what I suggested to her is to look at some of her interim assessments. For example, in North Carolina, we have North Carolina check ins.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in elementary school, you've got some other assessment data that you can look at. So, again, you want to get historical data by subgroup, and you figure out how you're going to present that. It needs to be in a figure, table, chart, graph, something. This doesn't have to be this way. In fact, be creative. It shouldn't be this way. But I think it's easily, to me, this made sense. It may not to you. That's okay.
But you
Just making
can
sure it
use that.
makes sense to
But you
me.
can use that if you want to.
Right, right. Okay. Um, and then you're going to clearly say again, um, why why you decide on that target subgroup. Clearly say that. Then you'll talk about your meeting with your principal, and you end with your hypothesis. Okay.
Dr.
Now, one
Revis,
of
when
the
they meet with
things,
their principal, should there not be some information in there showing their presentation? And
yeah, I put it, include a
okay,
slideshow.
gotcha. I see. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So you want to talk about the slideshow that you prepared, and then you will say, see Appendix A, because that's your first entry, right?
Mhm.
So, uh, sorry, I don't know what that was. So you would put that in the appendix and make sure that when you put it in the appendices that it's big enough for us to see the slides. Okay? All right, Dr. Stedman.
I think that's got it. It's a lot. Well, it is a lot, and it looks bigger than what it is once you get into it. I can't hear you, Dr. Revis. Dr. Revis.
Sorry. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
was just talking away.
Yep.
There's very little, this is not about writing a thesis or a
Uh-uh.
dissertation.
Mm-mm.
Clear, concise information that explains what you're doing, how you've done it, and how you've made inferences and made those connections to identify your academic area and your target student group. So, Dr. Stedman, at this point, are we ready to, if you're good to go, to go?
Right. If you're good to go, you can sign off. We will stay around for a few minutes to answer any questions that anybody may have. So you can start raising your hand if you have a question, and those that don't, you can sign off or you can just hang around until we get through with them. It's left up to you. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Bye. Okay. Gwen, you have a question.
Yes. What's the question? Oh, for the 2 attempts so when we see our paper, if there's error, that one, you guys will send it back for the second attempt, or how does that work?
Yes, you will get, first of all, remember, and I think you know this, try to submit it as complete and perfect as possible the first time. Um, when we edit your work and we look at it, we're going to give you side notes, suggestions, and we're going to talk about things. Now, we may not look like if it's APA issues, we may find that consistently there might be a problem with in-text citations. We may highlight an in-text citation, and we may tell you to go back and check APA for all your in-text citations. Or if it's APA capitalization. We will also, if your narrative work is not strong enough in something, then we're going to tell you that it needs some more work, needs to be strengthened. And we may give you a brief example, but we're not going to go into great detail because we want you to learn, how to do it. But yes, you'll get feedback from us once you turn it in.
Okay, and that's had another question. And she kind of mentioned the subgroups in South Carolina. So I don't have the reportings because it's under 20. So would I use, because our district uses like iReady data, should I use that or?
I
Yes.
would use yes. If you don't have subgroups because you don't have 20,
Right.
then you need to explain why you're not using that, okay, in your narrative. And you could even show a breakdown. Um, then you can go and you can say why you're using something different. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ryan?
I am struggling because my principal has told me that the 2025 data is embargoed. So I've given 3 years of other data, but
That's
he's not
all.
letting me
That's all
share.
you can do. That's all
Okay.
you can do. You
Okay.
use the most recent data, and if it's embargoed, you have no control over that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mary Kay?
So I have two questions real quick.
Okay.
The first one, when we talked earlier about the anonymity when it comes to the schools and saying XYZ school, should we do that for the citation and the reference as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does that include like using the school's mascot?
Uh, anything that would identify your school, they're saying that when it goes through the assessment, portfolio assessment, you can't have anything that's going to identify your school or your district.
Okay. So my other question is when we start identifying the problem, I'm a classroom teacher. So should it be a problem that I can work to correct, or would it just be an overall problem within the
It's
school?
just an overall problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay,
Remember,
Nicole?
you're putting on
Okay.
your lens as a school-wide leader. Okay.
Okay, Nicole?
I have questions. Um, I'm gonna not say so many. One, when collecting data, and I went to get the the different type of subgroups. My school has wonderfully changed from Power School to Infinite Campus when I went to my data
All of
manager.
us have now, yeah.
So it's not there. It's not there from this previous year because it's just gone. And my data manager was like, I can go looking in totes for you. And I'm just like, I don't want to do that, or you won't allow me to do that. So
Data manager shouldn't, I mean, data information should still be there. It was just transferred over into a new program. We can still see, because we're working with it too at my school. So that information, am I correct? For those of you that,
that's what I
just
was just
because,
told, and I was just like, oh, okay.
yeah,
So
just because you're in Infinite Campus does not mean that all that information in the past has gone away.
I'm gonna have to find someone
Am I
else.
right, Dr. Revis?
Well, I pulled mine right from the school report card.
Yeah.
North
And when I
Carolina.
go when I go to the school report card, because we have pre-K, when it has my enrollment as like 641 for my school, and then when you change it to subgroup, since we have pre-K, it only shows the pre-K, and it says everything under 10, which is because there's only 17 pre-K, and then doesn't list any more subgroups that are out of that 641. So
Are
that was
you in South Carolina?
I'm in North Carolina.
You're in North Carolina. That shouldn't be a problem there for North
Yeah.
Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I went to the district, did my school, went down to the bottom, 641, changed it to subgroup, and then it just shows the pre-K numbers in a big box and breaks it down. And this says under 10, and then it doesn't provide any other information out of the
Well,
641.
that probably means you don't have any subgroups then.
Oh,
Nicole,
well,
do you have a curriculum coach at your school?
she just got hired this year. She's a third grade
Okay.
teacher last year, so she's
Okay.
um
Who is at your school? I mean, your principal, if they have time, that would be the
and
source
that's
to
what
go
I was gonna ask. Other than
Yeah.
the school report card, I'm on the SIT committee, the school improvement team committee. And we of course did all that data talk at the beginning of the school year and identified the problem for the school and etc. and made our goals for it. Can I use the information from that PowerPoint or discussion session from that, or does it just have to be all from, is that okay to use?
You want to do your own work.
Well, I
Okay.
did do some of that work. I was part of that, making that PowerPoint in the beginning of the school year.
Okay, if you let me just say this. You've got, if no subgroup showed up on the school report card, my assumption is because you don't have any subgroups that are bigger than that threshold number in North Carolina. I don't know what it is in North Carolina. It used to be less than 5, but it may have changed now. I'm not going to answer your question, because if I have to answer your question, I'm going to tell you no, you got to use your own work. Okay?
Um,
But I'm not answering it.
yeah, I, I, I agree. There's, there should be stuff in what you've already done that you can embed in the work that you're doing. But
Somebody said that happened to them too. Who was that?
Rogers,
Rogers?
okay.
So I'm in a very small district as well, and I had to kind of dig a little bit for this. If you go to the student performance and go over to the right and click it subgroups, like under your actual EOG, not the climate of your school, because that's where my preschool was at too, and I got really confused. It actually was above that. Like you had to go up and change it from table to subgroups, and then it showed the few subgroups that I do have as well. I don't have many either, but I do have a couple. And it's not in the same section as the preschool. I don't know if that helps, but I just wanted to, I actually had to have another principal show me that because I have a new principal and he wasn't familiar with it. So I had to do a little bit of digging.
It's Langley.
Yes.
Langley, could you share maybe phone numbers or whatever with Nicole, and the two of you talk about it, since you've got a similarity? Would y'all be willing to talk about it?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Is that good, Nicole? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes, sir.
Okay. good. And that may help a lot, because what she see, it's hard sometimes for us to because we don't see what y'all see a lot of times. So we're trying to give you directions on something that we don't see like y'all see on a regular basis.
Langley, did you have another question?
No, that's what I was just going to try to answer
Okay,
that. That's
thank
all.
you. I appreciate that.
Okay,
Hannah?
Hannah? Yeah.
Hi. So I was the one who, well, one of the people who probably emailed you earlier today about the subgroups. But I wanted to tell you that I was able to use EduClimber. It's a new program we're using at our school in South Carolina this year. And I was able to dig into that today and to find that data that I needed for my subgroups. So my
Okay.
only question is, using EduClimber, how do I cite that in APA? Would I use the webpage government agency citation for that?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. It's a
Hmm.
program, right?
Yes. Hmm.
I would look it up online and see, is it a private source or a sole source or private source, and you'll probably find a citation there.
Okay.
Now, Hannah, be sure in your narrative that you say you didn't have any subgroups
Mhm.
and this is why you deferred to this other data set. Okay?
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Katie?
Hi, I just have some questions about the internship hours, two quick ones. I know you said get as much proof as you can, basically, for the different things that you're attending or supervising or whatever. Um, but does everything need proof? Like I
No,
just looking at
no,
okay,
no. That's just if you can get an artifact, have it.
okay,
And that's always good for a portfolio when you get ready to go for an interview, to have portfolios of things that you've done, been involved in. But your principal's got to sign off on all of this before it's turned in anyway. So they're attesting that you have done this. Okay.
Yeah.
okay. And then the other piece is I'm currently an assistant principal, and my start date was August 1, and I have a lot of work that falls into this. The categories happens before the kids arrive. Can I use that time
When did your
from
teachers come?
my hire date, or do I have to wait until students?
No. When
Sorry,
did your teachers come back, Katie? They come
they
back
came back
August
on
4th?
Actually August 1st.
Yeah,
Was
if
the
that's when
first
your
work day.
teachers came back. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can start.
so
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Beth Ann?
Okay, hello. So when I was looking at my data, sorry, I'm sick. I'm gonna do my best to talk
Bless
here.
your
I'm losing
heart.
my voice. When I was looking at my data, I'm in South Carolina. I was using SC Ready scores, and my plan was to look at language arts, math, and science, then kind of zero in on grade level that looks, and then zero in on subgroup.
Okay.
However, there is 1 year of science data from 2023. So can I use two different grade levels of math, or do I just say I don't have the data for science right now? Now, I was told that there would maybe be science this year, but I don't have access to it yet. So I may be able to compare, but obviously I can't zero in and make that, an area of need if I don't know. I don't know. I can't compare it to
Yeah.
anything. There's only 1 year.
You just have to note
I saw
that.
science scores, Dr. Revis. My my testing coordinator showed me science scores the other day for my academy.
Yeah,
For
she's
South
in South
Carolina.
Carolina.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
That's right. I'm sorry, Beth.
And there's not like we do map testing that doesn't test science. We
right.
do computer programs, but they're all language arts or math based. So I don't really have any other
I would say
science.
put what science data you have,
Right.
Okay.
and in the note, just make a note, and in your narrative
Okay.
that you
I mean,
don't have.
chances are I'm not going to pick science as my area to zoom in on
Yeah.
anyway. I can pull that from the math and and
Right,
language arts. I just wasn't sure what to do about that third section.
right. But,
You can't do what you don't have.
Right. I
right,
mean, like going back to like 2016, I think it is, and there's
right.
nothing except 1 year. So,
Okay.
okay.
But,
And
but
then for internship hours, I feel like some of them are going to fall kind of in leadership and technical. Like one of the things my director gave me was finding field trips, or I'm working under a director of special education, so finding like adaptive horseback riding or field trips for our special needs groups this year for all 4 schools. And so that's kind of technical, but it's also leadership. Are you guys really like specific about them, or can we kind of put them where we think they fall?
I,
You put
That makes sense.
them where you think they fall.
Okay. Okay.
And if we don't like it, we'll tell you.
You'll tell me. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you guys so much. I appreciate
Okay,
the
you're
help.
welcome, Beth. Okay,
Thank you.
Rosalind?
Hi, so my question was similar to Beth Ann's about the subgroups. So I chose reading, math, and science for my elementary school, but since fifth grade is the only grade level to take science, some of the data for the subgroups don't show up because it was less than a certain number of students participating, so they don't report the data. So it's an incomplete chart. So do I need to find another test to look at, or can I turn the incomplete chart and explain why it's incomplete?
Yes. You need
Yes.
to make sure that there's an explanation as to why
Okay,
those are blank. You can put a little abbreviation, not tested or something, and then talk about that in your narrative. Okay.
I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question, though. Candace?
Hi, I'm just, hey, I have a couple of questions. I'm over here pulling double Zoom duties. So one of my questions really quick was about the presentation that I have to give to my head. It's our head of schools. We have the head of schools and the principal and assistant principal. I'm on the administrative team. So AP, but the conflict might be with the date that I was given for him to meet my clinical person. Can't remember her name. And that's not going to be until September 4th. And it might limit the amount of time of his availability for me to do a presentation with him because I know his workload. So I'm trying to figure out the logistics of how to make both of those happen within 1 week. That's one thing. And then as far as the hours that I need to achieve, I do a lot of leadership because I'm leadership. So I don't know. Um, I guess I'm trying to say I don't want to cut any corners at all. I want to do all the work, but I do interviews, I do observations, I do walkthroughs, things like that. So those are definitely count, but how is there any particular way do you want me to document those kinds of things?
Just use the log, Candace. And here's what I have found, that if you're already in an administrative position, you're doing all the work. The thing that you're going to have to be careful is that you take time to document what you're doing. Okay, so it could be that at the end of the week you look back at your calendar and then write up your activities. But you won't have any problems getting all your hours in. It's just making sure you write it down.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And the conflict with the time frame for this week, I don't know that there will be a conflict. He may have some availability to do both. I just wanted to kind of put it
I
out there.
don't know how to answer you on that one.
Because the end of the day, Candace, and I understand what you're saying, but everybody could have the same situation and we wouldn't get anything done. So we have a timeline work to try to make it happen. And I we've had lots of students that's been right where you are. And when we told them that, guess what? They figured it out.
Out.
They figured it
I
out.
say the same
And
thing.
I believe you will. I believe you
I
will.
believe you will too. I know you will, Candace.
Okay. Okay, I'll do my best. Thank you.
All
Okay,
right.
okay, Leah.
Okay, I had just two questions. I'm kind of like we're a year-round school, so I'm also instructional coach and admin intern. So we started like July 18th. The teachers came back and the students came back the 20th. So some stuff I have been doing. So like, could I start like the August like 1st or
Okay.
some kind we had to do
When I know that with year round, at some point you're going to be students go home for like 3 weeks. When would that
yeah.
be?
The third week in September.
Okay, so yes, you can go back because during those 3 weeks you'll be doing work, but there would be some things that you couldn't do because students are
Yeah.
not in school and
Okay.
teachers are gone. Am I right, Dr. Revis?
Yeah, definitely. Or
Yeah, so
you're not gonna have
because you're on 12
Yeah.
months, you can go back when you started and start your time, okay?
Okay. And the second, I got a lot of my information from like the North Carolina report card, and I have also access, to certain data because of our district. So one of the things was the school data profile. Could I use that because it has all the information, and do I cite that as like coming from my district?
XYZ district school
XYZ
profile.
district. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Okay, good questions. Okay, guys, anything else from any of the rest of you that are with us?
They just like hanging out with us, Dr. Stedman.
That's great. I love having them hang out with us.
I do
Anyway,
too.
thank y'all so much, and you're gonna make it happen. You're gonna make it happen, okay?
Have a good weekend.
Okay, bye
Get your work in
everybody.
early, and that way you can take Labor Day.
See you next week.
Bye, Dr. Stedman.
Okay, bye.